welcome back to the channel. Today what we got for you guys is my first ever spell build. So as you can see, we're using a dead shot, so that is a Graveborn and Spellshot combo. And this is my first spell build, and honestly it is probably one of the most fun builds I've played around with. So thought I'd show it. I've been working with one of my buddies to gather all this gear. So we've put a lot of time into this, and hopefully y'all enjoy. So we'll go into the skills first, then we'll jump into the gear side of things. But for the skills themselves, as I told you guys earlier, Graveborn and Spellshot. So you would think that we would go directly more into Spellshot, but we actually spec heavily into Graveborn. Basically, there's a lot of synergies in Graveborn, and that helps with the spell damage as well. So jumping right into it, we went into the skill right here. This will help us with spell cooldown rate. We want to have our spells almost always available to us, so this is going to help reduce that cooldown a bunch, and we can basically spam these like crazy. Next we have Faithful Thralls. This is extremely important. Although this is not a companion build, this increases your damage a ton, because every time you spam the spells themselves, you can get companions, and because of that, you get 9% damage per companion. You can get even up to, I've seen 7 companions at once. It's very weird. At times it'll like restrict itself to 4, 5, 6, but at other times you can see it bump all the way to 7. So it's kind of random, but when you can get those insanely high stacks, you get a ton of damage. So next we have Harvest. This is going to be helping us, our companions deal a little bit of extra damage. Surprisingly, you can actually get a decent amount of damage from your companions as well. So that's very good, and more damage on top of that is just nice to have. Now next we have Sanguine Sacrament. This is going to be our primary health regen slash staying alive, survivability, all that type of stuff. This is what's going to help us the most with that, right? It's an insane amount of health regen. You don't really need dark magic. I've tried this build without this skill, and you're significantly more squishy, and you're already squishy because of some of the skills we went in the Spellshot tree. So this is going to help keep us alive. Next, we went into Dark Hydra. This is important. This is because every time so I made a small mistake. I said that Faithful Thralls is going to help us spawn the Hydras, right? No, it's actually Dark Hydra. Dark Hydra helps us spawn more Hydras. Every time we spawn a new Hydra, we're getting a higher boost from Faithful Thralls. So Dark Hydra helps a bunch with that. I'm going to move my mouse for a sec. Then we have Ascension. This is going to help us with spell damage. That's primarily what we're concerned about. And it's a kill skill, so every time we get a kill, we are going to get 6% per stack, and then this can stack up to 10 times, so you can get 60% extra spell damage. We are moving on to Lord of Edges. This is just going to give us a flat damage dealt bonus, so 25%, so this is significant, so we went ahead and spec'd into this. Then we have Blast Gasp. This is where ability damage comes into play, and you can significantly increase your damage just because now you have ability damage, and having 50% of your having an extra damage source that is coming from 50% of our spell damage, which is already insanely high because of all the other synergies that we have. Ability damage is also very important. Next we have Morheim's Blessing. So this is going to be another very key thing, and that's primarily why we went so far down in the Graveborn tree. So originally, all these kill skills, you have to get a kill in order to activate them. This capstone makes it so that you don't have to actually get a kill, and that every time you cast a spell, you automatically activate your kill skills. So you get the Hydras, you get the extra damage from, sorry, what was the skill? From Faithful Thralls, and there's one more that I'm skipping out on, right, with Ascension. So all this damage, more spell damage. In turn, you get more ability damage because now your spell damage is very high. Getting 50% of that as ability damage, that is huge. and that is only a 20% chance, but because we're spamming our spells so often, that'll actually happen quite a lot. Unfortunately, this cannot be a critical hit, but that's fine. We have insane critical hit damage from our spells already. So next, moving on to Spellshot, we went into Spell Sniper. This is going to help us with the crit chance, like I just said. So this is a flat 60% increase in our crit chance. That's going to help a ton. And we'll go into the spells. There's a little bit of a negative from the spells, but this kind of counterbalances out. Next, we have this skill for reload speed. Reload speed does not matter as much, to be honest, but it can help, and that's why we actually put it in here, and rather than any of the bullet builds, or any of the gun damage or fire rate. Now, I will say, I primarily like to focus this build on spells, so I did not want to go into anything for gun damage. If you don't care too much about reload speed, because we are going to be TDR chucking if you want to. It's not an absolute necessary. It's just going to help you, and you will get more damage if you throw out some TDRs. But again, it's not a necessity. But basically, because we're chucking them, we want to chuck them faster. We want the reload speed a little higher. So if you don't care about that too much, you can put a few points into gun damage here or into just warming up for the fire rate. Next, we have Font of Mana. This is going to help us with cooldown rate. We don't really care about the action skill cooldown rate because we're going ambidextrous and we only care about the spell cooldown. Luckily, it's 20% for spell and not flipped. So we get a flat 20% increase, and that's also going to help us with just keeping our cooldowns very high. And another thing, with Essence Drain, this was a kill skill. So again, this is also going to get a benefit from our capstone in the Graveborn tree. Next, Glass Cannon. This is an extremely important skill. We're getting a flat 30% spell damage increase, and on top of that, our ward no longer recharges, and because we're using the Cursed Wit in our inventory, we actually don't want our ward to regen, and so we get a flat damage bonus from that, as well as the extra damage from just speccing into this skill, which is huge. By 30% for just one skill point is absolutely massive. Next, we have High Thread Count. Go ahead and put 1 point in here. Our class mod goes ahead and gives us another point. That'll be an extra 3 on top of the one that we're speccing into. So we get 6 in total, extra spell weaving stacks. We already have 5 from the actual class feat. So we can stack up to 11, and that is going to also help us with our spell damage, because now we're getting 10% per stack, and with 11, that's 110. So that's absolutely huge. And now we'll go ahead and look at some of the inventory. But actually, before I go ahead and do that, let me go ahead and show you guys the actual hero stats. So I went ahead and put maxed out crit damage, and I also maxed out spell cooldown. I put a couple of points into, and actually it's the remaining points. The remaining points I put into dexterity. I honestly do not know if it would have been better to have it in wisdom, but I wanted to ensure that I'm hitting crits as often as possible, so I went and put them in here. And on top of that, you can see that we have an extra 55% for the Spellshot power. We didn't get any Graveborn power. We'll see why from our actual gear set. Alright guys, sorry about that. I tried to reload my game a few times because unfortunately the icons are not actually showing. So regardless, I'll go ahead and just go over the items, and you can see the names, and I'll also just do a quick inspect to show you guys. But basically, we have 4 different enchants that we're focusing on. Your 5th enchant can be whatever you want. I honestly just have a duplicate, and so I'm not actually getting an extra bonus. But you can go ahead and do whatever you'd like. If you want gun damage, you can do on spellcast increase gun damage. I haven't done that, so this is what we're rocking with. So for our melee weapon, we are using the Spellblade. Now, the Spellblade is actually going to be useful in not only just for the enchant, but it actually does a significant amount of damage. And along with that, melee attack increases the spell critical chance by 80% for 6 seconds. That's going to also ensure that we're constantly hitting crits. So I went into this. It also is a great damage dealer, by the way. And the enchant we put on this is on spellcast, increase elemental damage by 20%. That's going to be huge. We barely have any sort of downtime with this, so 5 seconds may sound short, but because we're constantly spamming spells, we're constantly hitting this ability back to back. Now, you see I have 4 different weapons. None of those matter, to be honest, because this is the main gun. It's also a blue, so it honestly, like I said, this build does not care about the gun damage at all. But we're using a Furior weapon here. You basically want any Furior with companion, so that could be the Hydra. I think the Pixies also count, but this one is the gun with wings. That counts. And we're basically chucking this all the time. We have insane reload speed, and it already has 1.6 seconds, so it's already a short reload. So on top of that, we can just throw this when we're idle, and that'll help us with getting more faithful thrall stacks. But the enchant we went on this is on spellcast, increase ability damage by 30% for 10 seconds. So again, constantly spamming spells, we're basically having this up at all times. Now, like I said, the other guns do not matter. I literally do not use them at all. Like, literally, this is the only gun I use. You can get a purple version, you can get a green. It does not matter. You just want the enchant, and you want it to be a TDR or a Furior, sorry about that. That is a companion, pretty much. Now, moving on to our rings. There are 2 rings we're using. We're using this one right here. I have seen people stack up on 2 rings. I'm not sure if you can do that and if you can get the effect, the 100% increase on both of them. But I went ahead and played it safe and used 2 different rings. We're already doing a bunch of damage for mobbing, so that's not a big concern of mine. But the 2 rings we went into are the champion ring. So this is, and you want spell damage on both of your rings. You could get spell crit damage or spell crit chance, anything like that. That'll help. I didn't even get that, so remember, this build is not even as optimal as it could be. I mainly cared about the ability for the ring, and then along with that, the spell damage itself. So this one gives an increase of 100% to our effects whenever we damage a boss. So this is the main reason we want this is bosses are our biggest issue, and this will help mitigate some of that. In fact, you can still kill bosses very fast. But this just helps with adding an extra 15% of spell damage to it. So next, the other ring we have is the Magic Mood Ring. This is just while ward is not full, effects are increased 100%. Because we went into Glass Cannon, we will not have the ward full at all. So we basically have an extra 100% of this all the time. And this one gives us a bonus of spell radius. Not sure if that's actually a big deal. It doesn't help with damage or anything. So that's that. Next, moving on to our ward itself, we're going with the Cursed Wit. This is probably the best shield in the game right now. While ward is depleted, gain 17% damage reduction, but more importantly, gain 100% increased damage dealt to nearby enemies. So when you're close to an enemy, you're going to kill them super fast. Now, I won't say, stick to close to the enemy, just keep walking towards them. You can still do an insane amount of damage. You don't necessarily need to be right to their faces, but again, it will help if you are, but because you're already outputting so much damage, it's not necessary at all. Next, this is a very key item, and I will say I was not able to find this myself. I did have to get this from Chadley's spell build, so thank you to Chadley for that. This is from him. I could not find one for anything. I was literally farming like crazy. I kept doing chambers and I could not get it. So we went ahead and grabbed this from him. And then next, but anyway, regardless, it is a smart armor. Sorry, I should have went into that. This one gives a total, it reduces your critical hit chance by 50%, but it increases your critical hit damage by 50%. So that is honestly very big. And because we already have a very high crit chance, just because we're Spore Warden, it's not that big of a negative because we're hitting crits all the time. And our Spellblade, whenever we do a melee hit, we're gaining 80%. So basically, it not only negates the downside of the smart armor, but also gives us a bonus of 30%. So regardless, what I'm trying to basically say is you really don't get the negative of having reduced crit chance from this. Next, this, it honestly does not matter. It could be a purple, it could be whatever. All I cared about was getting frost damage and spellshot power. So that's what I got, and that's really all it is. Now, this one honestly doesn't even help us at all because it's talking about the action skill cooldown. So there are other spells that, or other amulets that you can get that are probably much better. This one doesn't help too much, aside from its regular properties that you can get on any purple or blue even. So moving on to spells, there are actually a few different spells you can use with this build. So as you can see, Ice Spikes is the key thing here, and this is focusing on ice damage, or ice damage basically. So there are two different types of Ice Spikes. There's the Impaling, and then there's the regular Ice Spike, which has all the orbs. So this one, for example, the Bergian triple Ice Spike. So the Ice Spike, the Impaling Ice Spike has a very cool ability. Basically, you snap your fingers and you get an icicle that forms from the ground up. You can do this anywhere. You can do this on buildings. You can hit an enemy directly with it, and it'll spawn an icicle shard right on their bodies, and it does huge damage. And because it has a very low cooldown, 10.5 seconds, and on top of that we have all that cooldown, we literally can spam these and we get them back really quick. So literally spam them, I'm out, I got one back, and then at most I have to wait 4 seconds, right, for each of those, and I can start shooting them again. So it's a very cool spell, and honestly works very well. I think it's one of the coolest spells in the game, actually. But aside from that, what I like to also do, sometimes I'll double up on this for mobbing, because these can one-shot mobs, and because you have 3 charges each on each hand, you can kind of go really quick through all the mobbing sections of Chaos Chambers. But for bosses, what I like to do is I actually like to get one of the regular Ice Spikes, and basically how these work are, you can hold them, and they'll do a volley, and they'll do it 4 times, right? There are many variations of this, so it's not like you'll always get the same one, but basically you just want to look for one that has a volley of damage. So for example, here you see it's 452 times 4. That's actually only the damage for one volley, and because you do 4 volleys with 1 charge, you can just imagine, it's literally it's 452 damage times 4 times 4, right? So you're getting a bunch of these Ice Spikes, and each one is doing a bunch of damage. So it may sound like, I mean, even if you just have the 1 volley, it's still more than this. But regardless, for bosses, this is very good. Now, it does have a slightly higher cooldown with 16.4 seconds, and you only get 2 charges with it, but it's still not actually that significant. So I'll go ahead and try to quickly get rid of it. And as you can see, it's maybe 6 to 7 seconds to actually get them back. So it's a little bit longer, but regardless, you can still somewhat spam them. And in the downtime, you'll probably get your actual Impaling Ice Spikes, and you could just keep spamming those. So that's what we have there. And yeah, that's pretty much the build. There are a lot of synergies here. There's, a lot that's going on. You can improve it. Another key thing I want to mention is as you can see, I don't have a lot of chaotic gear, right? Almost everything is based. This one has a chaotic version, but it doesn't help with the ability that we're actually using it for. It just helps with capacity. But again, because we're going to literally be running around with no shields because of glass cannon, we don't actually get the benefit of this being chaotic. And same with the gun. This is chaotic, but because we're not spec'd into gun damage, we really don't reap the benefits too much. Now again, because we are doubling up on this on spell cast increased damage dealt, it's actually a waste of an enchant. So you could improve this theoretically by introducing a gun damage enchant or anything like that you prefer. So anyway, that's the build, guys. Thanks for watching the video. At the end of this video, I'll go ahead and post a little bit of a little bit more gameplay on some of the mobbing, and you can check that out. But otherwise, thanks for checking out the video. Me and my friend worked very hard on this build. I actually recorded this video yesterday, but there was no audio, so yeah, I had to re-record it today because I did it very late last night. So anyway, I'm re-recording it now, and I'm gonna get it out to you guys soon. So thanks y'all for watching, and if you like the video, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel. I've been seeing the views and all that, and I've gained a lot of subscribers, so I'm very, very happy, and I thank you guys so much for checking out my content. So please continue to do so, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you guys actually give it a try, and if you do, let me know. I'm also open to suggestions, so if you have any ideas on how to make this build better, please let me know. I'm always open to it. I love to hear feedback, so go ahead and let me know. So yeah, thanks for watching the video once again, and I'll check you guys later. Peace.